come together.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Newsroom from NewsX World. I'm Asuma Katauka. Let's take a look at the top 5 stories of today. First, we start from Iran. Iranian people have held protests for a week now, and they have been they have started the funeral of the people who have passed away during protests, and they have named these people or called them as martyrs. Now, Iranians are taking part in these funerals in the cities Isfahan and Hamadan for the people who were killed in the wave of protests, which authorities have dismissed as riots. The protest movement in Iran has subsided after a crackdown that has killed thousands under an internet blackout 1 week after the start of the biggest protests in years, challenging the current Islamic Republic's regime. Meanwhile, Switzerland has summoned Iran's crackdown on nationwide protests as well. Shanghai Corporation has also issued a statement saying that and blamed Western sanctions for sparking unrest in Iran and called for the removal of external interference. Also, President Vladimir Putin is mediating in the Iran situation to de-escalate tensions after Putin spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. Moscow is an ally of Tehran and has condemned U.S. President Donald Trump's threats. Putin has expressed Russia's willingness to continue mediation efforts, promoting constructive dialogue with all interested states. In a separate call with Pezeshkian, Putin has voiced support for political and diplomatic solution to de-escalate tensions. Now we welcome my colleague and reporter Marisha Barve to our news. Marisha, what more can you tell us about this protests?
Yes, well, Asuma, you have mentioned the global aspect and how the world is perceiving and standing in solidarity with regards to Iran and seconding the protests that are happening. The fact that Putin and all of them have extended solidarity towards Iran, in fact, is rather very big step towards the Iranian regime that has fallen down in the recent days that have come about. But let's talk about a very recent development that has come about with regards to Reza Pahlavi. Now, Reza Pahlavi is the son of the former Shah of Iran. This was a family who was the previous regime of Iran, and then further Reza Pahlavi was exiled and he now stays put in the United States. Now, in a public briefing within the United States, Reza Pahlavi came about publicly and made a few statements that have rather shaped or have given more perspective towards his side and his perspective towards the Iran protests. Let's take a look at a few comments that he's made. Now, Iranian opposition figure, like I mentioned, Reza Pahlavi, has urged international support for Iranian people, saying that a free Iran would be a global game changer. Pahlavi said he plans to return to Iran and claimed that he has clear plans for an orderly transition of power. Now, this is from the regime of Khamenei to now he's calling it to be a transition to himself again. He argued that global stability depends on removing Iran's clerical regime, which he said is on its last leg. Now, Pahlavi stressed that the world can save lives by supporting Iranians and applying pressure on the Iranian government. He said Iran's security forces must be part of the solution and they must not be excluded. This is to ensure a peaceful and stable transition. According to Pahlavi, the people of Iran have the right and reason to reclaim their country, and change can come without the chaos. But the context of all of these comments from Pahlavi is in fact Trump's comments with regards to Iran, where Trump said that Pahlavi seems very nice, but expressed doubt in his ability to rally support inside of Iran. Trump said he was uncertain about it, that if Iranians would accept Pahlavi's leadership, adding the situation has not reached that point as yet. He also said that he has no plans to meet Pahlavi, highlighting US's caution in the midst of all of this chaos that is going on. Now, the Iran as a nation is in immense uncertainty because of their government being destabilized, and the opposition has its own challenges, where analysts say that Pahlavi has symbolic visibility but unclear on the ground support. It's important to note that he is in exile. He has been far from reality of what Iran is currently looking like, apart from the little media that is being broadcasted out of Iran, since we know that Iran put a shutdown on internet, and a lot of coverage is not possible into seeing the actual ground reality of the unrest in Iran. Now, the US State Department said that Iran's nationwide internet blackout is now in its second week and is meant to hide a violent crackdown. Washington accuses Tehran of trying to silence calls for freedom, saying censorship cannot conceal abuse. It is rather unfortunate and dire looking at the situation of Iran at this hour. Although Reza Pahlavi's comments that come in bring in his perspective, although how much of his perspective is legitimate is something that the world questions. In fact, US also questions if his leadership would be legitimate or would be even accepted by the Iranian citizens. So yes, Asuma, this is what's happening in Iran. The world closely looks at how the unrest can be resolved, and if at all the government can pick itself up again. Over to you, Asma.
Thank you very much, Marisha, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you after taking a breaking news. Now, we focus on a new breaking news update. There has been a statement made by US President Donald Trump. He has said that he's going to, or he is looking into imposing tariffs on countries that do not align with his perspective, or him eyeing Greenland as an essential part of US's security. And he has exactly said that I may put a tariff on countries if they do not go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. Trump has now once again stated this and at the White House, and he has now escalated the situation. Now we welcome back my colleague and reporter Marisha Barve for this. Marisha, thank you for staying with us. What more can you tell us about this escalating situation?
Yes, well, every day seems to be a new development and an interesting development when it comes to Trump's comments on the Greenland row. Now, in very recently, one of the latest developments that have come about is Trump's comment where he mentions that he is likely to impose, and he threatens to impose, more tariffs on any nation that stands in support or in solidarity with Greenland. Now, Trump has time and time again mentioned how he wants to, and his administration wants to, acquire the region of Greenland for security purposes. Although he has mentioned that the US must take over Greenland, otherwise it may go in the hands of global supergiants like Russia or China. But let's take a whole-rounded look at these comments that Trump has made. Now, there is this level of strategic justification that Trump comes across with, where Trump argues that the US control of the autonomous Danish territory is vital to prevent, like I mentioned before, Russia and China from expanding their influence in the Arctic. He specifically linked Greenland's importance to the Golden Dome missile defense shield. Now, he compares these potential penalties to tariff previously used against the European Union to lower pharmaceutical prices. But there is in fact a diplomatic fallout and a huge level of resistance that Trump and the United States face because of his persistent action of pursuing Greenland in the first place, where you see Denmark's officials and Greenland's officials and even the citizens keep mentioning that Greenland is not for sale. In fact, Greenland is of the Greenlanders, and that if anything, Greenland citizens have said that they would rather submit to and under the ownership of Denmark rather than being a part of the US. Now, European response is rather interesting, where France and Germany have warned that such a move could enrage the broader trade relationship within the EU and with the EU. The European Parliament issued a rebuke calling any move against the sovereign territory a violation of the UN Charter. There is a lot of military tension which has been reported, where reports indicate that Denmark has dispatched an advanced military command to Greenland as a credible deterrent, while the White House has maintained that utilizing the US military is always an option. Now, what is the context of all of these comments and all of these developments that come about? It is in fact when Trump did mention that he threatened. It was a very threatening statement that he made, where he will take control of Greenland the hard way, if not the easy way. Trump has described his approach to acquiring the island as having an easy way and a hard way, which is the force or unilateral action. This rhetoric follows recent controversial US military interventions in other regions such as Venezuela, which has increased international concern over seriousness of these threats. The region is rather very threatened with the recent actions that the Trump administration and the US military has pulled off with regards to the different regions within the nation. Cuba is threatened. Also, considering the fact that US pulled the Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela, where they captured Venezuelan President Maduro and his wife and got him to the US. If the US is capable of doing so, what's stopping them from doing so in the future with regards to other regions as well? So yes, Asuma, this is what we know about the recent development and Trump's latest comment, where he threatens to impose tariffs on nations that stand in solidarity with Greenland.
Thank you very much for that deep insight, Marisha Barve. Now we move on to our next news that is coming in from Zelensky. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that Ukrainian delegation is headed to US for talks about this possible security prosperity package. So President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that a Ukrainian delegation is en route to the US for talks on the security guarantees and a post-war recovery package, expressing hope the documents could be signed on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos next week. During the talks, Kyiv teams also hopes to get clarity from the US on the Russian stance, and Zelensky has also said that Ukraine had completed its part of the work on the documents outlining a prosperity package to unlock money for Ukraine's costly post-recovery, as well as on US security guarantees designed to stop a future Russian attack. Now, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has also said today that they have taken note of statements made by several European leaders in recent days suggesting renewed engagement with Russia. Moscow had an ongoing dialogue with the United States about so far unsuccessful efforts to get a peace deal in Ukraine, but no such dialogue currently has existed or exists with European governments. Now, we bring back my colleague and reporter Marisha Barve for this. Marisha, thank you for staying with us. What more can you tell us about this?
Yes, well, Asma, to give you and our viewers a more broader perspective of the background of why the peace talks and this escalation where the Ukrainian delegation heads to the US stems from. Now, if you look at it, Russia and Ukraine have waged war for almost 4 years now, and peace efforts have been in place for the longest time. In fact, many people have tried, many nations have tried brokering peace talks, although they stand at a point where peace is not, even though the talks are proceeding and although there are summits that are being taken place to ensure peace, yet the ground reality is that there are still overnight strikes. There are still attacks that are happening from Russia to Ukraine and Ukraine to Russia. Peace has not reached its breach. Peace talks have been breached time and time again. And what we see right now is yet another effort to reinstate and further these stagnant peace talks. Let's look at the whole picture of it right now, where Ukrainian President Zelensky and the Czech President Pavel held joint news conferences in Kyiv earlier today, where Zelensky confirmed that a Ukrainian delegation is en route to the United States for talks on security guarantees and a post-war prosperity package. Now, you mentioned about the talks that will be happening in the Davos. Although Zelensky and Kyiv hope for clarity from Washington's side on documents that are already prepared with the US. Now, he added that Ukraine expects a clearer picture of Russia's response to ongoing diplomatic efforts. Zelensky and Ukraine says that Ukraine has completed its part of the work and is waiting for the US acceptance. If finalized, now if all of this is finalized, the documents could be signed during the World Economic Forum in Davos next week. Although Russia has been accused of delaying these peace talks, Zelensky said both Kyiv and Washington want the war to end quickly, stressing that Ukraine wants it today, if not anytime in the future. They are urging urgency at this point. Zelensky accuses Russia of stalling the process, saying that delays in signing the agreement and ending the war are on Moscow's side. Now, the comments don't just come out of the blue. They follow Trump's remarks on that suggest Ukraine was less ready for a deal, a claim that Zelensky and Ukraine have strongly rejected. Now, the reason why peace talks have not been that easy to meet and that there has been a stagnant tendency towards these peace talks is because there are challenges with regards to security and energy. Zelensky revealed Ukraine had several air defense systems without missiles until Friday morning, that is today morning. He said missiles are now available and he could speak openly about the issue. Now, when it comes to energy, Zelensky said that electricity demand reached about 18 gigawatts, while capacity was closer to 11. Though restoration work continues daily, the strikes have been a major liability to the infrastructure of Ukraine, which has damaged most of Ukraine's energy sectors and facilities. But here we see Czech Republic's president who stands in support. He highlighted that Prague's role in the ammunition initiative, which he said supplies over 50% of large caliber ammunition to Ukraine forces. The president also confirmed that the initiative will continue under the new Czech government. But why does all of this matter, Asma? The reason why it does is because Ukraine is seeking a long-term US security guarantees to prevent future Russian attacks. Kyiv estimates post-war reconstruction that amounts to up to $800 billion. The coming US talks and potential talks that will be happening in Davos and the Davos signing could mark a critical diplomatic turning point in the efforts to end the war. So right now we stand at a point where peace talks are being initiated, then they fall stagnant, and then they are reinitiated. Although now, looking at the trajectory of it, considering that the Ukrainian delegation has gone to the US after Trump mentioning that they are ready to further the talks. This marks a significant step, although the world watches closely when it comes to the peace talks. Would they really sustain? Would they actually come out of theory and into practice within the borders of Russia and Ukraine? So yes, Asuma, this is the security guarantees. These are the points, these are the conflicts that hamper the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. And considering US's mediation, we do look closely into further developments. Only time will tell how this pans out and if Russia and Ukraine can truly reach peace despite of all the initiatives that have been made in the past. And we hope further procedures would take into action and that peace would finally be the end goal within the borders of Ukraine and Russia. Over to you, Asma.
Yes, as you highlighted, we will be eyeing that over here on NewsX World. With that, it's a wrap on this newsroom. Thank you very much, Marisha, once again for joining us, and thank you for watching.